Against all odds, Terrifier 3 obliterated the box office this past weekend. The unrated slasher made over $18 million last weekend. That is way more than what Terrifier 2 grossed in the entirety of its theatrical run. With indie horrors like this film and Longlegs conjuring up a shocking amount of success, it seems as if we may be entering a new era for horror films. Amongst all of this excitement is talk of a fourth, maybe even a fifth Terrifier film that apparently Damien Leone already has ideas for. More brutal ways for Art the Clown to end lives, and of course, expand this mysterious story. In today's video, let's break down what we know so far about the future of the Terrifier franchise, as well as a juicy theory regarding the final showdown between Sienna Shaw and Art the Clown. Now let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Before we start theorizing on where the recently confirmed Terrifier 4 will take us, we have to really break down the third film's success. Over its opening weekend, Terrifier 3 collected $18.3 million from over 2,500 theaters. It's unheard of for an unrated slasher flick to hit that many theaters during its opening weekend. The pandemic seems to have had a lasting effect on theater chains, but it may have just opened the door to new opportunities for extreme horror flicks like this. This performance is especially exceptional considering that Arthur Claus faced off against Arthur Fleck at the box office this time around. Joker 2, having been made for almost 100 times the reported budget of Terrifier 3, barely reeled in $7 million from almost double the amount of theaters. The Joker sequel has only generated $51.6 million domestically, with a worldwide total of 165. It's nearly impossible at this point for Joker 2 to break even with $450 million. Ouch. That's certainly a killing joke, alright. It gets even nuttier for Terrifier 3 due to the long weekend. Happy belated Indigenous Peoples Day, everybody. With many schools, colleges, and banks closed on the holiday, it seems as if Terrifier 3's gross is already up to 20 to 21 million as the Carnival Conqueror acquired another 2 to 2.5 million on Monday. And I'm sure that total is even higher now. This video is going up the following Friday. I'm hoping this success continues, although Smile 2 will surely divert some of the horror crowd in its second weekend. One thing is for sure though, there's gonna be a lot of smiling horror villains in theaters this week. Christian protesters were spotted outside a theater in Kansas stating they protest the Satanic Santa Terrifier 3 movie showing here. This is eerily similar to the same protesters in 1984, exactly 40 years before Terrifier 3's release, that were hoping to shut down screenings of Silent Night Deadly Night. That franchise went on to have 4 bizarre sequels and a remake. As actor Devon Sawa put it, a sure sign a movie is probably really good is if there's people protesting outside the theater it's playing at. I couldn't agree more, Devin. I couldn't agree more. Terrifier 3's success is a big deal since theater chains treated its admission similar to an R-rated movie. It's even reported by THR that kids bought tickets for The Wild Robot and ended up sneaking into Terrifier 3. Oh, bless their hearts. I remember when I was in middle school and we had to sneak some of our younger buddies into Insidious. Those were the days. As the Terrifier fanbase snowballs with the success of the latest entry, fans have one big question on their minds. What's next? Franchise creator Damien Leone confirmed at the premiere of Terrifier 3, held at this year's Fantastic Fest, that yes, there will be a Terrifier 4. Damien also took to Twitter recently to say there is no definitive answer at this time regarding how many more films I will make before concluding the Terrifier saga. Personally, I can't see it going further than 1 or 2 more films, but only time will tell. Rest assured, the ending will be epic and terrifying. He doubles down on all of this in a recent interview with Variety, assuring us that more is to come. He also adds that he may end up doing 2 shorter films in the 90-minute range to conclude the series so he can add in all the different set pieces he wants to throw Art the Clown at. It almost sounds like he's pitching a Deathly Hallows 2-parter finale. I could get into that. That's basically one 3-hour Terrifier film. Whatever happens next, I'm pretty sure of 2 things. They're definitely gonna get more money and hopefully more time for the next one, and the fans are gonna show up when the next film or films drop. Before I go any further, I do want to throw out a very quick spoiler warning. Seriously, if you have not seen Terrifier 3 yet, you might want to skip the rest of this video. Let's just say that there's a reason a 4th film has to be made at this point. Terrifier 3 ends with a massive cliffhanger of hellacious proportions. Sienna's cousin Gabby gets dragged into a clown cafe portal, taking Sienna's one defense against the murderous mime away from her in the act. With Sienna's life in ruins and the sword dragged down into what I think is hell, Art and Vicky certainly have the upper hand here. Terrifier 3 was nowhere near as triumphant as the sequel. Now that we're all caught up up to speed though, let's start theorizing on the franchise's most burning questions. For instance, how far into the future will Terrifier 4 take us? Will it take place on another holiday? Will we see more ghosts of dead characters from past films? Will Sienna ever pass the f***ing rice? And finally, will we ever have a clear answer as to who or what Art the Clown really is? Well, let's get into some of my Terrifier 4 and 5 theories. The two Terrifier sequels pick up where the previous film leaves off. Terrifier 2 begins with Art finishing off the mortician from the original, while Terrifier 3's extended opening resolves the sequel's birthing sequence. I think Terrifier 4 will do the same. After Art escapes via window at the end of the previous film, he hops on a bus with two other passengers, the driver and a lady reading the Ninth Circle. The driver is notably played by Terrifier producer Phil Falcone, and the lady's book seems to be foreshadowing what's to come next for the series. The Ninth Circle is something that has always been a part of the Terrifier franchise, going all the way back to Damien Leone's short film that was also featured in All Hallows Eve. Art the Clown has always had connections to the underworld. Art will once again take a note from his old pal Leatherface and rip these characters to shreds at the beginning of the next movie. I think Leatherface might have him beat on bus massacres though. That was the best scene of the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's see Damien outdo that. The real question about this scene is, where will Art go to heal his wounds? The same house from the previous flick, maybe the Terrifier attraction from part 2, maybe a new Art the Clown hideout that we've yet to see. Following this theme of picking up right where we left off, I think the film will also return to Sienna's aunt and uncle's house. I guess they're dead now, so the house would technically go to Gabby, but then again, she's also in hell. Maybe it's just the cities now. Sienna will likely start off the fourth film by looking for another Clown Cafe portal. She might also be evading the police at the beginning of this flick, considering a few things that were dropped in Terrifier 3. We learned via the podcast sequence that some folks blame Sienna Shaw for the murders of Terrifier 2. That doesn't seem to be Sienna's biggest problem though, because it sounds like she's gotta go to hell to save Gabby. Something I've been thinking about is I wonder if she can open the Clown Cafe portal at the Terrifier attraction again. I also think this film will bleed into New Year's Eve for its next holiday, considering this saga storytelling. Each movie feels like the next chapter of one big epic. I think this works especially if Terrifier 4 ends up being about Sienna having to go to hell to save her cousin. New Year's is a holiday focused on celebrating a new era for oneself. It's a reflection of what came before while holding new resolutions for what's to come. I imagine Sienna will be dealing with a lot of that before entering the Ninth Circle, but on a much more traumatizing scale. Willingly going to hell to save the last of your surviving family sounds terrifying. The ebb and flow of the sequel could follow Sienna through the different layers of hell, call it Damien's Inferno. While the plot moves with Sienna, Art could independently continue his massacre on Earth. Look, let's be real, it's a Terrifier film at the end of the day. I want to see Art the Clown killing people. There's gotta be some goofy semantics and a big showcase kill. It's basically what we've done with Art in these last two movies, minus a big showdown at the end of the flick. If part 4 is about Sienna going to hell, rescuing Gabby, and potentially killing the entity once and for all, that could set up a more grounded fifth and final entry. With Art's guardian demon gone, he becomes mortal again. He's still a merciless serial killer, meaning he's still a threat, but if Sienna chops his head off this time, then he's gone for good. Terrifier 5 could go back to basics and be a simple slasher movie again after a much more ambitious concept is explored in the fourth film. The only thing that's really different is you have your final girl hunting down your slasher villain. I think this would be totally full circle and would appease both sides of the Terrifier fandom. Those of us who want to see this mysterious story resolve, and for those of us who are just showing up for the gore. I also think doing this fifth film that way gives a chance to really examine Art the Clown for the last time. We got a taste of his backstory in part 3, I think, where the demolition team discusses how the house in which he and Vicky hide out at once belonged to a serial killer. Back in the 90s, he apparently buried a bunch of children in the basement. Flashbacks show us Art the Clown's time in the 90s, where he maybe started off as a simple birthday clown that developed a taste for blood. This would be a really cool way to send off the Jolly Jester by going back to what made that first movie so special in its simplicity. Along the way, I'm sure we'll run into more familiar faces from the past, like how we already have. Brooke, the character from the sequel, was featured briefly in Terrifier 3 for a scene that has really resonated with people. This clear homage to An American Werewolf in London ended up being a cool callback, but hasn't affected the story. Yet. If Sienna just gives her the damn rice, maybe she'll go away. Seriously though, I think this could be setting up a bigger spectral presence in Terrifier 4, where the ghosts of Art the Clown's previous victims help Sienna take down the entity. Think something similar to the ending of The Black Phone, where the ghost kids end up beating up the grabber. This would also be an effective way to show some fan favorite characters again, like Catherine Corcoran's Dawn and Jenna Cannell's Tara. These two especially need some sort of redemption after Art the Clown did them so dirty. I'd especially love to see Jonathan Shaw on screen again in one of these flicks. A character that some believe is still alive after his shocking off-screen death in the last movie. Sure, that skull in the cage could have been Juliet's from the beginning, but how did Vicky and Art get his glasses? I think the little man is dead, and the only reason his death was off-screen ties right into Damien's most recent comments about where the line is. Speaking with Variety, the writer-director says, "I'm always looking for lines to get up to push the boundary. Maybe just step right over it, but you can absolutely fall into a level of extreme distaste that I'm trying not to do." I think Damien knew this would be an emotional death on or off screen, and whether you have a problem with the scene or not, there is a clear intention for doing it this way. First off, Jonathan is just a kid, at least in the eyes of most Terrifier fans. In Terrifier 2, we literally watched him grow up during dinner, considering they filmed some of these scenes months and months apart. I don't think Damien would want to kill this character on screen, especially based on that last comment. Also, Jonathan's death was used as a fake out to make you think it was Gabby's head in that rat cage. This makes Sienna's aunt's death even more brutal, having her think that her daughter has been viciously murdered. It does suck that we didn't get to see more of Jonathan Shaw in this entry, however. I'd love to see Jonathan come back like as a bloody red-skulled ghost with the glasses on. He could guide Sienna through hell, think Virgil to Dante. It would be sweet to see him come back for such a bizarre new take on that same character. Whatever happens next in Terrifier 4, it's clear that it's going to take some bigger and more ambitious swings. I'm expecting this next one to be Damien's Army of Darkness, as the series becomes more grandiose, blasphemous, and totally epic. What do you all want to see from Terrifiers 4 and 5? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.